Welcome to Tech This Way.
Hi.
How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Amran. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for coming in. I don't know much about direct lending. Hopefully today we'll change that.
Yep.
And even about yourself. So the way this normally works is, if you could give yourself a bit of intro.
Sure.
And then we'll go from there to wherever lah.
Sure.
Wherever it ends.
Yep. Maybe I briefly introduce myself, like how we usually do it for interview sessions.
It's just chat.
No, just kidding. So I'm an accountant by background. I'm actually older than how I look. So I'm 40 years old right now. So have been.
That's still very young.
So has been working for about past 20 years. So I started as an accountant in a big four firm when I first graduated.
Okay.
I guess I was quite fortunate in the mid 2000. Got transferred with PwC to London.
Okay. Where did you graduate from?
Just local, just ACCA. So I'd never been to overseas before.
Okay.
It was my first ever overseas trip.
Then you joined PwC in Malaysia.
Yeah, Malaysia, and then so after four years plus, I was, I guess, quite fortunate to get posted to London.
Okay.
In the office. I guess at that time M&A was very booming. A lot of activities going on. So we also do a lot of transaction service work, and that's where I get exposed to a lot of bank activities.
Sorry, this was PwC accounting.
And
Accountancy.
also they also do quite a fair bit of transaction services work, reporting work. So someone in their mid 20 at that time, banking at that time is where the profession should be.
Right.
High pay, reputable and whatnot. Very sophisticated. So I was trying my luck to join a bank. And I was fortunate to join Barclays, one of the big four banks in the investment banking side, doing debt capital market for insurance and banks.
Okay.
And I guess this was the perfect timing. That was 2007. That's where the global financial crisis happened. Looking back, I think that was probably one of the most exciting time in my career, because you kind of see a lot of things that you read in textbook from bank run. People really literally queuing in front of branch to withdraw the cash back in the UK at the time, Northern Rock. And of course, I remember for Barclays, the share price was from £7 all the way to like 30p at that point in time, right? People were talking about, whether bank was exist and whatnot. And I remember for my first year, there's literally no transaction, nothing happened at all. Then I'm like, maybe it's time to bungkus and balik kampung.
Because funny enough, I think that crash was worse. It feels like it was worse in Europe, US than it was here.
Absolutely.
In Malaysia.
Absolutely.
Things were like, okay.
Yeah, it was not so much I guess an Asia thing. I think it's the worst in Europe. I know a lot of bank was, of course, no longer exist. And of course, for some bank in the US also, it was very much a US European phenomenon.
And I always attributed that to the birth of fintech.
Yes, it is absolutely. It is absolutely. So one thing that I think, that was actually where fintech started. I think one of the key reasons was really because, just to give you an idea, the switch in perception in public. Before that crisis, people always respect bank, as a very high paid professional job.
There was a bit of trust, right?
Yeah. And after the crisis, because I think the fact that a lot of banks do get the public money to bail out. And I remember there's one time I flew back from another country after work, went through the immigration. Of course, I'm not I don't have a.
Sorry, at that point, how long have you been with Barclays?
So I know I spent about 8 years with Barclays, despite what happened.
And this was like in the middle of that career with Barclays?
I started in 7, first year.
I see.
Yeah, so I joined in 2007, and that's where the crisis happened.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I thought that maybe time is over, I should bungkus and balik. But somehow, I guess, I was lucky or whatnot, and I survived. And
it wasn't last in, first out.
No, I got promoted, as a director at the end. And for some reason, I want to come back to Asia, so they moved me also to Hong Kong and Singapore. But I guess to share one of the story at that time was, to sort of talk about the birth
How
of
bad it was.
fintech. I remember I came back from I can't remember which country, but I've been through the immigration. So he was asking me, so what do you do in the UK? I said I work in the bank. He gave me a very, very funny look, and he just shook his head, and then I guess he got no choice but chop my passport and let me in. I think at that time a lot of public actually lost trust with the banks, I suppose, from the bank run and whatnot. So that's where I think the fintech really started, and because that dynamic switch happened compared to, I guess, Asia, where I think public in general still trust a lot with the bank.
But I guess you survived it lah. Were there a lot of job cuts and all that happening at that time?
Yes, I guess it's a semi-annual thing. I mean, I think that was just so. I think it's become like a ritual. I remember the first 2 rounds I was worried, but after a while, it's like, you know what, you can't plan for it. You just see how that happened. But of course, then with what happened to the economy, what the government or the central bank do, I mean, of course, the economy recover, and of course, we end up doing a lot of transactions and whatnot. I also grow from there.
Right.
So to finish off the story, so I also spent about a year plus in Singapore and Hong Kong, still with Barclays, doing similar things, helping corporate financial institutions to raise money. Then 2016, I decided that that's probably enough. And
why the move back to Asia when you were still over there, and then was
I
it
think
just an assignment or you requested for it?
I requested because at that time I already got married, and I decided we decided to have a family.
Right.
And we feel like it's always better to raise a family back in Asia.
Yeah.
And also, your parents also getting older, so I think that become a natural transitions. So when I decided to come back to KL for good, I decided that not to work with another bank. And of course, at that time, I also been following a lot of fintech. And one thing that I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to really have an impact to the society is this whole P2P lending. So that's back in 2014-15 at that time. So that's something that I follow a lot. And so I decided that maybe I should try it out. And also that's when Malaysia Security Commission was talking about giving out license to set up P2P.
Right.
So that was really,
at that point it was still the ECFs lah.
Exactly. So that was really, I guess, kind of went through one round and back to where I started.
Okay.
So that's where I guess the start of direct lending.
So how did it actually start? So you were still with Barclays, and then I'm just going to quit and come back. How was that?
Actually, I mean, towards the tail end, I think there's a push and a pull factor. I guess for me, I'm someone that always like to solve problems. And I think after the whole crisis, banking have also changed a lot for, I guess, as we understand, of course, because of, after all the bailout and everything else, they want to also play it safe and be more a utility-like organization in that sense, especially a European bank in that sense. So every time they will create some frustrations in the sense that you have to go through a lot of procedures, committee and paper and whatnot.
The governance way. Yeah.
So that's not, I guess, something that I particularly interested in. And of course, on the other side, you have a pull factors of, how to use technology to provide financial services to a particular audience group, which I guess is unthink of maybe 10 years ago. It's very hard to imagine that people can set up their own bank or financial services in that sense. So I think at that time, because of the push and the pull factor, and one area that I see there is still a very unsolved problem is this whole underserved segment.
Okay.
Banks are providing finance mostly to basically, well-served with credit record and whatnot. And so that's where I thought that maybe I can have a go and see whether I can solve that problem. So that's where I decided to pivot my career. Okay. And really started this out. So that was towards the early 16. And the business really kind of started towards the end of 16 after I've
So what did you
taken
do?
a few months. So initially, I really wanted to try this peer-to-peer lending. But what's a bit unfortunate, not to say unfortunate, but I think it is what it is that I was looking at personal financing, whereas the SC licenses was only given out to business lending.
Yeah.
So then, of course, then I cannot go through that route. I can't do a normal P2P for personal financing because that would be illegal. So I try to think it through what I can do then. So I bump into something that I come across in Malaysia is they have this relatively active koperasi loan market.
Okay.
So whereby there's a lot of koperasi giving out financing to the more underserved civil servant, where the repayment is through salary deductions.
Right.
And the way it gets distributed out is through agent, MLM structure, call, on the ground. So I thought maybe I can use a platform like a peer-to-peer connecting the koperasi to this underserved borrower and cutting through all the processes. Because when you're a lot of human involved, the natural thing will happen is that people may ask for money, the commission is not enough, so there's also scam happening, all that stuff. So that's as a first start, it was really like maybe that's how I can start it and see how things go.
And the customers at that point is still the civil servants?
Yeah, you have to be civil servant. So that's really how we started.
So who's we?
I guess just me. And at that time, I have my now CTO,
Right.
who was at that time was just my freelancer to help me to build the MVP platform. So from having a secretary can book you flight everywhere, then everything by yourself, from renting the office, HR, customer service, operation. So I get started. At the start, of course, business is slow, trying to figure out how to do things.
Was it just the two of you at the start?
Yeah, it was just really two of us. We started at renting a desk, maybe just about this size, at Magic, Cyberjaya,
Okay.
for about 200 ringgit per month.
So were you getting any support from them, or were you part of their GAP programs? and
At
all
that time, when I first started, I was just really occupying their Magic co-working space. And yeah, this was really that. And
Okay.
with the high side, I think that was a really good start because, around me is all also startup, early stage startup. So we spent a lot of time together,
Right.
talk about problem from why this website is not working, how to do digital marketing, all that stuff.
So there's a lot of osmosis learning lah.
Yes,
Just because
yes,
you
yes,
are surrounded by
yes,
people.
yes.
That's good.
Because for me, it was also a big change. I know finance,
Yeah.
but I do not know anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from all this digital marketing, how to so-called run a business is a very different things altogether. So that's where I started. Then I also go and see a lot of our customer to really understand who they are. And that's really where I know that is a serious problem. Because in a way I'm not really from that segment group. So by just, I guess, reading, listening to others, you may get a feeling of it. But when you really meet these people face to face and they're telling you the problem that they are facing, there will be really like people who just need few thousand because whether it's my car just broke down, maybe my house just I bought and whatnot, I need to do something to fix it. And of course, when you come to the school term, I need to buy stuff for my children.
For the kids, yeah.
Yeah, so things like this.
And these are small amounts.
Yeah, it's not
relatively, right?
Yeah, it's not a big and I guess before that I would say why such a big issue? I mean, you have saving, you have credit card, you can do all these things. But I guess the reality is that there are actually many Malaysian and even in Southeast Asia who actually do not have access to bank credit.
Yeah.
Whether it's loan, whether it's credit card, right? The credit card actually is very concentrated to a group of people in the country. So I think it's really that I know that the problem is real. They need a solution to that. I may not have the solutions. I still don't have the solution right now, but I know it's something that worth spending time to pursue. So that's really from something that I envisage is a problem to knowing it's a problem. And I think the satisfaction that I got at that time was, by helping them to get loan that really they appreciate, when I tell them, oh, all this service is free. You don't need to pay me anything. They don't believe. They thought I'm a scammer initially.
So what was the model? Were you giving a platform to the corporacies to give out, or you ran it? How was
so the operation model is pretty straightforward. It's really pivot around a peer-to-peer platform. So whereby we will take our commissions from from the lenders, and we will help them to market their product out to the borrower.
And the lenders are?
The lenders that we work with is mostly Koperasi at the start of that. And through that model, so what we are offering to our borrowers is that, of course, the whole service is free, but it's not just that. We basically help them to discover and get the loan that are most suitable for them. So we have a suite of product that we curated over years to tailor for different purposes.
You help me understand this suite of products.
So we're trying to understand what is actually the problem that you can't get a loan from the bank. Is it due to your salary is low, whether due to your secrets problem, and even down to what secrets problem? Because each of the lender would have their own risk appetite.
Right.
And of course, each of them also, due to risk appetite, have a different pricing models.
Yeah.
So we really understand the situation of one particular borrower. So like say, for example, Inche Ismail, he can't get a loan from the bank because, his salary is just below 3,000. But otherwise, record is quite clean. So we were trying to find a koperasi that will offer him the best rate that still meet his requirement. So then they'll say, this is something that suits you to your requirement. And you can consider this. And in sometimes, maybe there'll be two options. The option could be because it's more expensive, but it's faster. So also depending on the speed that you have. So really much like a consultant, like an agent model to understand your requirement and offer the best one. So we, instead of, I guess, most of our competitors will be pushing based on what give me the best commission, and I push the product. So I kind of imagine this like just a typical insurance agent. But in this case, we're trying to understand your requirement and push and propose to you what are the financing product that is most suitable to your circumstances. And this whole service is free. We will work it through from all the way until the money is into your bank account. And then the lenders will pass us commissions.
On the platform itself, how does that matching work? Is there somebody at the back there looking through all these applications? Or
so of course, over time we believe in technology because otherwise we wouldn't scale. If everything is human, then we will always get stuck. So as of right now, from the initially very manual base.
What was the initial phase?
For the initial base, it's very much just like a lead captured. So capture leads.
So the initiation for all this is the borrower. So the borrower will submit their request, if you like.
Exactly. As an inquiry.
Inquiry.
Yep.
So at the back, you will look at this inquiry with their information.
Yep.
And then look at your portfolio of all the different corporations.
Exactly.
And then, okay.
Exactly.
And how many people were doing that at that point, at the start?
I guess on that side, it's really just me.
It was just you?
And then Sontak, who is my CTO.
Right. And how did you go to market? So it was just the two of you, right? Did you have to have like specific agreements with the corporations to say,
yes, so we will have we call it a partnership agreement. So basically they appointed us as one of their marketing partners.
Okay.
So we can distribute their product.
Right. Like an agent for their product.
Exactly. Okay. With the do and don'ts and some things. Wow.
So then what did you do? Okay, so you've got that. So you built your platform. And then?
Yeah, then of course is marketing.
Right.
So that's where I guess the starting easiest one is always digital marketing.
Right.
So from don't know anything, I went to go to a digital marketing bootcamp, learn about digital marketing, start with Google AdWords.
Right.
And then, do SEO. So from the start, people search, come to us.
So how long before you got your first inquiry?
1 month.
Okay.
1 month.
That must have been crazy exciting, right?
Yes. But the most exciting thing, all the way through, at the end, it was rejected. So, right. So at that time, I can imagine, just like, I remember I was listening to like Jeff Bezos when he built Amazon, he have this bell
Right.
that when an order come in, the bell will ring.
Yeah.
Then okay, there's an order come in. It was exactly that feeling. I can relate a lot. It's like, oh, a lead pop in.
Yeah.
Okay, come, let's call and see what happened.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of drop off because people don't trust you, and because our audience are also very much Malay speaker, and I haven't been speaking BM for the last 10 years.
Right.
So it's also a challenge.
Even
for
if
me.
you did, it was like some Saleh accent.
So it's also a big challenge for me.
Yeah.
And so I remember, because every day I had to drive to Cyberjaya, I will listen to some Malay radio just
Right.
to get myself familiar back that.
Yeah.
So a lot of challenges. But yeah, eventually, I think I eventually got my first loan approved.
Right.
I don't know, towards the end of second month.
Okay.
But still, a lot of hiccup, a lot of problems.
Sure.
We don't have sufficient product suite. People say, "Oh, why is like this?" So it's really through that. Then you learn the trick.
But hang on, from a borrower standpoint, they push submit, right? Then what happened? You come back with a proposal of a few options, or do you just apply for them on their behalf and then come back? How does that work?
Okay, at the initial stage, maybe I should say right now, this is what we believe is a much better solutions. The idea would be, you make inquiry. We will immediately get back. What are the package that you actually qualify for instantly?
Okay.
Right. And then in the ideal world that all the financier can really drop off the whole paper stuff, then we can just apply digitally, and then you get the money in. Right. That is the
ideal
the
world.
ideal world, right? And really, what we're offering to you is really what we think is the best in the market, with full transparency packages.
Yeah.
So that's really the ideal world for us right now. We do the first part. We are still trying to work with our lenders so that we can avoid all this paperwork, but we are not there yet.
Yeah.
So there's still a part whereby you still have some paperwork involved, manual processes. And also because I guess where we are right now, we also have a consultant that is attached to those qualified borrowers, just that they have someone they can talk to physically. Because otherwise, all by machine, I don't think we are ready yet in that environment. But at the early stage, it was really just like a lead gen, right? People key in stuff, email will call back and say, oh, someone will contact you back within a day.
Yeah.
So then that's where me, I'll call back with some funny essence, call back. And then, of course, at the time, we also don't have enough product. So can I offer what I have? So then, but I never push it. I want to see how they react. So that's where from the feedback, and then I will see what else actually is out there in the market. So sometimes customers say, oh, this is not what I want. Then I still following up. So then I ask them, so end up, what do you get? So then they tell me what it is. I will go and approach that corporacy back and whatnot. So at the end, I think over that period, that's where we also start our automation process, like trying to basically replicate what a human do that we can do in the machine side.
As much as you can.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's really the journey, how we started. And yeah, so through that, we over this year now, we managed to curate a product suite that can fit a different requirement. So now we have about 10 lenders right now.
Okay.
There's still more that we can do. So yeah, because we started with the government side.
How many lenders potentially are there in Malaysia? I don't know this market very well.
I mean, in corporacy side, actually, it's quite big. I think those who are registered with corporacy, Suranjaya corporacy, probably it's about a few thousands. But those who are active and lending commercially, we're probably talking about 20, 30 of them.
Okay.
And some of them, of course, are duplicate in the sense that are similar. So in that case, we will choose what we think is the best from a process pricing standpoint. So we work with them. So I believe for us right now, we are more or less complete from a government sector side.
Okay.
So
and at this stage, your customers are still just civil servants?
For now, it's about 90% is civil servant. So we will continue to grow that. And our goal is to become the number one player in that field. So now we're trying to also expand that out into the non-civil servant segment, which we believe is actually even more opportunity.
Right.
But it comes with different challenges, because the challenges actually is that the lender who can serve that segment become much smaller. Because the government side, you can kind of get through that because of the salary deductions.
Right.
Right. Whereas for
and you know that their jobs are pretty secure.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So to me, I think we are still at the early stage of our journey in our mission. Because when I first started this, really the mission is to enable every hardworking adult to have safe and affordable financing. So if you can access the bank, then that's great, right? I think that's less a hassle, but it's more for those who can't get loan from the bank, and yet you are working hard, maybe as hard as everyone else, but maybe just due to your job, your nature of your job, maybe your salary and whatnot. But we believe that everyone should be equal in that sense. So I think we have a solution for the government side. So it's really now, how do we build that solutions for the civil servant segment?
So the team itself, how did that grow from the 2 in 1 desk in Magic?
I think we moved office for about 5-6 times. Although a few times it's just within a co-working space, from a desk to a small room to a bigger room until to our own offices.
Right.
I think it's also a new experience for me. When you're in the bank, you have HR who filter out everything for you, and all you see through is really like qualify. You just choose who you think is the best. But then we have to start from really searching from a pool of CV from all the job portals. But how I guess as the business had to grow, then once I know the customer service side, then I get someone to help me on that, so I can focus a bit more on different things. So over the years, we basically have built a team of loan consultant. It's 7 of us. So we also have a team of marketing. Sukimi is here, and also we have built a tech team around things. And now we're also building a product team around, really to address this, the non-civil servant side. So
now there's about 20 of you, lah?
Yeah, it's about 20 of us.
Okay. Since 2016, did you say?
2016.
Okay.
Yeah, and also we are about 4 years plus getting into
Nice.
5 years. So been an interesting journey.
What about the transactions itself? So you started off with your 1 month in. So how many are you processing now? Have you able to share?
So I think our biggest record is about 250 cases per month.
Okay.
When we first started, the first month we are doing like 20,000 ringgit worth of loan. So now we are doing about 8 million plus ringgit per month. We still see there's a lot of opportunity around. So it's really how I think for us right now is how do we get known by people, because I think the general perception is that if you're not a bank, then you're along lah.
Pretty much.
I remember there was even when we do interview for job, I would have candidate parents. Are you along or not?
Where's the red paint?
So things like that. So I think educations, awareness.
So these products itself, help me understand a little bit. So you're saying is in the range of hundreds to thousands, and how long is the term for, and the rates roughly? So
for the corporate market side, the tenure can go up as long as 10 years, which is actually allowed by Bank Negara. And I guess it's allowed to be that long because again, there are job securities, and also through the salary deductions. So for the corporate segment, that was the typical features. The loan amount, although it can be up to 100,000, but typically it's like 20K, that kind of range. Some of them use that for refinancing purposes.
Right.
The tenure is quite long, so that also help in terms of the monthly payment, it can get reduced. But I guess it's a good product in the sense that it helped to bridge the gap. Instead of you have to go down to the Along or the unlicensed money lenders, and the rate is pretty reasonable.
I assume the rates are between the Alongs and the banks, lah.
To be honest, it's much closer to the bank. So we're talking about
I'm sure.
4-5% up to like 8, 9, 10%.
Okay.
So compared to even a licensed money lender, talk about 18%, and of course the illegal one is way above that. So and of course they also look at your commitment and to some extent. So you still have some control around that. So, and I guess because of the whole salary deduction scheme, so I think the product is well developed. It's all about how do you reach it out to the audience. Because all this corporate, they don't have large network, right? So they are also not that well known in that sense.
Yeah.
So they are usually mostly using agent and whatnot to do it. So we are one of them, but we're trying to just do it in a more different way, in a more
So
digital
do you
way
have
to
the
reach out.
agents yourselves, or you just sticking purely on the
Yeah,
digital platform?
we just do that ourselves. We don't. Again, we are not here to, I guess, reinvent the wheel. I mean, if there are people who are using the agent, then just let it be. But we believe that if we can do a straight through, that can also cut the cost down. So we also have this rebate concept.
Okay.
So meaning that to make the loan more affordable, we feel that we actually can earn less. So we give some of that as a rebate
Right.
to the customer.
Back to the
So then they
borrower.
can get more in that sense. So that's what we do, because we can't, for now, we don't influence the product yet. So we try to do something that can make the product more attractive to the borrowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the KYC process and all that?
We will do some initial KYC first, but at the end, because we are just a pass-through a platform, so we don't actually take the underwriting risk. Eventually, the corporation would have to underwrite the product, the loan. But we were glad to say that one thing that we measure a lot is that we have this 90% approval rate, meaning that every 10 loan that we pass it on to the lenders, 9 cases will get approved. So that also helps us in terms of building trust with our borrowers, and then they also start to word of mouth and whatnot. So that have also helped us to grow our business.
So you're saying that, I guess, your platform would have filtered the no hope ones earlier on, rather than wasting the lender's time also.
Exactly. That's where the lenders also see value in us. So then we also work quite well together. So yeah, essentially for the business, we offer a win-win to both sides. For the lender side, it's you need to receive qualified leads, and so you don't waste time on the non-qualified, and you only pay when the loan is disbursed. So it's a very fixed known amount of marketing costs. On the borrower side, it's a one-stop service. It's free, and more importantly, when we tell you that you can do this, you have a 90% chance that you will get it, and you don't need to apply 10 and see what
and see which one you get.
Exactly. So I think that's, I guess, that has helped us to grow. But yeah, I think, but there's still a lot thing that we can do. We believe that. Yeah.
So apart from the salary reductions that the corporation would arrange, do they have to deal with the corporation at all? I mean, after they've submitted the
very
request
limited. So only when, let's say, they need to do early settlement and whatnot.
And what about like status and all that? Do they go through your platform, or do they have to go back to the lender?
Because through salary reduction, so they don't need to worry about in terms of monthly payment. So the only time they will need to call the corporation, usually because maybe I need to do early settlement and whatnot. And sometimes some customer will get back to us, then we will just help them also. But they can also deal directly with the corporation side. Yeah. So that's how that be. And we also will help them from time to time. So yeah, we also have this benefit in the sense that once we build the trust, so they tend to come back the next time. So then it can't build that relationship with the borrower also in that sense. Yep.
So how has the back-end operations been, right? So before, obviously, it was you getting this letter and going off to find it. Now you're getting in the hundreds a month.
Yeah.
How does that process work these days?
So now it's getting closer to where we would like it to be, but again, still a lot of room. So for now, the front end is all digitalized.
Yep.
So when the customer fill the form, immediately they will show the result, and then they can see which one suit them. So some of them will select what they want. So at this stage, so we are trying to test it out right now if we can digitally finish the process. But until now, then our loan consultant will contact them to explain a bit better and just making sure that this is what, the understanding is all correct. And then we'll help them to finish the process and then just update them all the way until the loan is into the bank account. So that helped us a lot in terms of, I guess, in the early days, I had to handle all the 10 leads. Yeah. Right now, we just handle the one that is qualified. So typically, the threshold would be from 10, the one that can really do probably 5 or 6 cases. Okay. And then from that, only some of them will convert. So it helped to eliminate a lot of that at that time. And yeah, so the goal is how can we have a seamless experience towards the end. Yeah, so that's where we are right now. So one thing that we also look at is the productivity of our loan consultant. So the more mean that we are able to equip them with the right tools and technology around that processes.
Okay. Do they have to talk to all the borrowers who have been filtered lah, not the 10 but the 5? Do they do it, or is it some so obviously okay that they don't even bother talking to you?
We still talk to them, but just I think it's the different in terms of the time spent.
Right.
So some because I'm okay with it, so it's very fast, right? Yeah. Some of them will still not sure, direct lending, what is it? Okay. So, you have to explain a bit more. Yeah. And
even though they've applied, they were not quite sure about it.
I think, because the reality is that when you just search like personal loan, there's so many things on the website, right? And it's just hard to differentiate, are they all
the legit ones? Okay.
Right? A lot of money lender also advertise there.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's that. I think it's that, right? So that's where I think the problem is, right? In the sense that because the typical borrower journey would be, of course, I will go to my bank first to apply. It's only when my bank say, okay, sorry, it's rejected. Then that's where you will start to do search. You may ask friends, you will search. And of course, if you are in a more desperate situation, then it's very easy to get, follow promise that by other people, like, oh, your loan will be okay, but you need to pay me X amount of money first. I help you to sort out everything. So that's where all these people will pay money before you get the loan. So, and sometimes I think the scammer are also taking advantage of this vulnerability of things. So I think that's where we hope that we can, contribute to solve this problem. Yeah.
Actually, from a regulatory standpoint, do you need to have anything to run your platform?
For what we are doing right now, no, because the lender themselves are all licensed. So, and we are just a platform in facilitating the whole process through.
Right.
End of the day, the contractual agreement is between the lenders and the borrowers. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So apart from the agents, who are your competitors then on this channel?
Our main competitor for this corporate segment are really the traditional loan agent. Whether it's running on the ground, whether it's doing telemarketing or MLM. So these are the main competitors in that sense. But of course, as we venture out into other segment, then you also have all these loan consultant that can help you to do things. Then maybe I guess at some stage maybe it's also some of these money lenders out there. But for us, then is how can we improve the processes around things.
But specifically for this, there aren't any other platforms that does this lah. Are you the only ones?
No, I think one of the common question that we got asked is that, so it's like those financial comparison site, our competitors. So answer is no. In fact, we work together because many of them more focusing on the bank segment,
like Ringgit Plus and all that.
So we actually work together. So whereby we will help them on those leads that can't get through on the bank side. So the digital side, so far we are not aware they are like a very direct competitors in that sense. I mean, of course, many of these loan consultants also have their own website and whatnot, but it's very much like a lead gen style model.
How you were 4 years ago.
Exactly. Which is very hard to scale in that sense.
So speaking of scaling, so you were talking about scaling both the lender side and the borrower side.
Yep.
So if we go to the borrower side first, so how can you so what are the plans then to expand beyond the civil servants?
I mean, I think on the civil servant side, we still see a lot of room. It's still
so even that market is not tapped yet.
I mean, I think we are probably like 5-6% market share. So I think there's still a lot of opportunity there. So we'll keep growing on that segment.
Sorry, just to interrupt. From a geography standpoint, do you serve? Is it the whole of Malaysia, or is it just?
Yes, it's whole of Malaysia. It's whole of Malaysia. So So that's where also having technology is helpful, because you can reach it out to, and I guess because I come across places that I even not heard of.
Yeah.
So I have to Google. Oh, it's there.
Okay. Because I guess for most of these customers, you would not have done. You have not met them at all, right? Or nor any of your consultants.
Exactly. Especially, I guess, in the East Malaysia side, because there will be a lot of also civil servant work in the more rural area, as a teacher and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there will be those school that I never heard of the places. So I had to Google up on that. So on that, I think, it's really investing more in the marketing side, really create a brand out there to let people know we exist and what we do. Away from that is really how can we then also help on the non-civil servant side in terms of, providing or achieving this mission, allowing them to have safe and affordable financing. I think the biggest opportunity that we see, especially with this whole COVID, is this self-employed gig player, micro entrepreneurs. And these are the people that are hardest to get loan from mainstream financial institution, including money lenders. Because as we kind of expand out, we also have a similar model with licensed money lenders operating at similar models. So many of them also will tell us, we don't want, self-employed. We don't want, because no salary pay slip and whatnot. Then so is really to figure out how can we use technology to, because this, at the end of the day, they also have income. They also work very hard. Is how do we leverage on technology, work with other players in the ecosystem to gather this data and able to process that data and say that, these are also individual that worth its creditworthiness. And then, it's okay to provide certain amount of financing for them, whether to run their businesses or whether it's, for other reasons. So that's really where we are also investing a lot of our effort. So the whole product development team is really around that space. I guess we like to look at area that not a lot of people look at, but we see opportunity around things.
Because I guess if you don't have a steady pay slip, right, it's very difficult to identify the ones who are actually doing well as a business, right? As an enterprise owner, as opposed to those who are doing their own thing, but are not doing well, right? So how do you differentiate that? Right?
I think that's where the challenge is. That's where I think there are also a lot of startups are exploring that. So I think instead of see it as a competition, I think it's more like how can we collectively provide some solutions to them. Some are looking at their transaction data on the platform, because as many of them sometimes also do their transactions through some gig player platform. So how do we leverage on that and maybe look at other commitment that they have. So there are really also things that we are looking at and to really leverage on what we have learned over the last few years to see how we can develop solutions to this segment and then on the back of it, working with our lenders to provide some sort of financing to this segment group. So that's where we see our growth area, and also it's an area I think maybe we can provide some solutions around things.
I guess back to the civil servants. How has the trend been for the last 1 year with COVID and all that? Because although I'm sure civil servants, they were not impacted per se. In fact, they got some extra money, right? So how has the loans been?
I think that the segment of that is always been quite steady. It's not a growing segment for sure, but it's a steady market. In fact, I heard from some lenders because of COVID, actually the NPL has reduced. Why? Because one of the risks for the corporacy is when the borrower decided to leave the government and do something else. Because then the security of salary deduction no longer exists.
Oh, actually, what happens with that? So if I'm in the middle of a loan tenure and then I leave, then what?
Then it just turned to become like a like a normal loan whereby you have to pay on a monthly basis.
Okay.
So that's where the additional risk occur to the corporacy, right? Because when I price at the time, it's on the basis that it's on the salary deductions,
Yes.
whereby of course it's safer.
Yeah.
So that's where it can turn out to become an NPL. So with the whole COVID, because of people are just staying
Nobody's changing jobs then.
so as a result, the NPL actually is even more steady.
Okay.
So it's quite quirky and to be honest, when I first started this, I was also like, wow, this is something pretty new.
Yeah. Were there, although in terms of transactions itself, did you see an increase, or was it more just natural progression of your growth?
In fact, I think in general, fair to say that our industry is also impacted by COVID. Because of, of course, there are certain pockets that the demand for financing increased because of I don't have a job, I pay cut and whatnot. But on the other hand, this is also not what the lender was willing to take.
The risk,
because of that, right? Whereas for those that still have your income coming in, with what's happening, I think the consumer confidence is also reduced. So I will put on hold on certain big ticket item, whether it's for renovations, buying, changing car and whatnot. And of course, then you have this whole moratorium. So you also give relief to people. And then with all these icing up packages and whatnot.
They have more access to money.
Exactly. So actually in general, we also in a way impacted by that. But I think that's just the nature of the industry. It's a cyclical businesses. So it's how do you manage that in a sustainable basis.
So seeing that the civil servants is still a big potential for you guys, how are you going to go penetrate that even more? Are you allowed to, I don't know, put your adverts in Putrajaya all over the place, kind of thing? Or in schools and all that. How do you get to them?
Yeah, that is quite tricky in that sense. So
are you frowned upon by the government service, or do they see you as just another service?
They will see us as another service.
Okay.
But what we hope that it's of course our goal is to build that hopefully trust that this is a platform that I can trust, and when I need financing, that's where I will go. So that is our goal for that. So that's really what we work towards too. So what we do is unfortunately we can't really hit on straight on directly because nowadays lending, whether you like it or not, is still a very taboo things around things. So it's how do we reach them? So we deploy different strategy, from the media side, more on a bigger picture. Of course, social media by providing useful finance, personal finance content, through also influencer, and also more down to ground stakeholder engagement, more on a smaller group, by sharing. Instead of just talking about loan, but things that you need to watch out for, because nowadays is something that impact everyone, and not everyone know about if I have this situation, what should I do? Not everyone know about my secrecy thoughts. People talk about it.
Almost advisory lah.
Yeah, so it's more like giving that kind of tips and whatnot. So also for people to be more careful in terms of as and when you have needs, what should you do in that sense?
Okay.
Correct.
So from the platform itself, I wanted to ask you about the funding itself for your company. So obviously bootstrapped at the start. So are you still self-funded, or did you get any funding? So
far, we were very fortunate to have support from Cradle, a grant, the CIP 300 grant, in 2019. But other than that, we had always been self-funded. So it's something that I guess as a startup founders, it's also a question that I've been asked a lot. Are you going to go for a crazy growth, or do you go for something more unsexy, stable growth? Maybe because of my age, or I guess maybe the truth is that because I've been through this the financial crisis, that I can see. I remember I think during the banking time. During that time, I was working with a AA rated global insurance company. They can't even fund themselves. They can't even go to market. It's the whole market just shut down, right? So I realized that you always need to have reserve. you can be super high growth, but if that moment you have a funding gap, then whatever potential going forward, it's nothing matter. So as a result, when I started this business, I always want to make sure that we can always sustain ourselves. It would be great to have external funding, but that's not to build your runway, but that's more to accelerate your growth. But you need to be able to fund yourself and not to rely on third party money in that sense to fund your runway. So that was that. Not everyone agree because some people say as a startup you need to have 10x growth. That is what a startup should be. But I decided that for rightly or wrong reason,
run this like a normal business.
We're still trying to grow ourselves. I mean, we still grow about 20% per year. So we whether in terms of business, in terms of headcount and whatnot, but that's how we have been funded it ourselves so far. So glad to say that we are profitable. We run ourselves, and we will see investment as if it come along, then it's great. If it's not, then we just keep doing what we can.
So it sounds like at this stage you're not looking for any injection to accelerate or boost.
We always also be active in the market. Because it's also good to know the investor, because it's good to also get challenged, and so that you can think about different things. But I guess the idea is always that if it come in, it can help us to grow the faster business. Then it makes sense. Then that's something that we will open. But we are not in the stage whereby I need to get the money because I need to fund the next 12-18 month paycheck and whatnot. In that sense. Our goal would be, because of COVID also, we kind of slowed down a bit in the sense of we do have a view of how to bring the solutions out to a regional space. So that still remain our roadmap. So, but the near term goal right now is really to make a very strong presence in the country, and then leverage it out and to explore that into the other Southeast Asia. But I think the problem statement is very similar. If it's not even stronger outside Malaysia.
But I guess it's just the different players the different lenders. In that respect, right? And who the customers will be.
Of course, fintech come with the additional challenges. Is the regulations is different in each country.
That's right.
The language and everything else. So I think that is the extra challenge that we have to deal with. In our space.
But there's still enough potential in Malaysia for now anyway.
Yes. Correct.
So as a I'm assuming this is your first company So it's the first time, or did you set anything else up before this?
No. As a I guess as accountant, you are trained to be risk averse.
Right.
And no, this is the first company. So as I first started, that was also the time whereby I have my first kids. So you also have your own commitment and whatnot. So internally with my family, I also need to have some discussions, planning and whatnot. So the plan of that time was I give myself 2 years. I allocate this money. If the business finishes money after that period doesn't work, then that's it lah. You have to close it down and move on. So that was that initial goal, and so I don't know. I think we call it like you have no plan B.
Right.
You just do your can to get it through. So fortunately we kind of get through that stage, and then it's just where we are.
Okay.
Where we are right now.
No, because a lot of the entrepreneurs I've talked to, right? So it's always been, at least multiple companies before they finally land the one that has a bit more legs. Right. Number one. Number two is always been, they've always had this entrepreneurship in their mind. It's just a question of when to do it, right? And then go. But for yourself, it sounds like I don't know, maybe when you went to UK and you're Barclays, did you have setting up your own business as a goal eventually, or it really just happened, towards the end of your career with Barclays, say, hey, maybe I should just try? Or was it something you've always wanted to do?
No, to be honest, I don't have that intention until quite late in my banking career. I guess what always excites me is I am someone that like to solve problem. So sometimes I also wonder like how I can work through a large corporate for so long.
Yeah.
Like when I first started.
Although having said that, you come from an accounting background. That's
Yeah.
not so hard to imagine, right? Accountants will just stay with the big companies.
Actually, the reason why I love auditing at that time because you kind of learn business. But then I think after Enron, a lot have changed.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of processes was involved, a
the
lot
regulations
of
came
that.
in,
Then I start to lose a bit of interest in that because a lot of time when you go to an audit project, instead of learning the business, okay, here's a checklist. Have you done all of that stuff? So, at that time, then I got attracted into banking because again, they was trying to solve problem and whatnot. Maybe sometimes getting too creative.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, I get to bank. I do a lot of hybrid capital structuring work, figuring out how tax or, accounting all can figure out together and help, our corporate to save money and whatnot, to raise funding. So that's always something that I like. But there's always have something that's where I think when, this whole fintech come about in Europe, where I start to get exposed a bit more, that's where I see like, wow, maybe we can do something about it. Yeah, I say I think it's definitely not imaginable that you can set up your own bank in that sense, or even your banking services in that sense. So I think it's that. So even when I first started, I guess I was quite cool-head in that sense. Like, it's not about, okay, I got my freedom. It's, just see whether we can do this or not. In fact, I always say that as an auditor, you work long hours. As a banker, you work long hours. This is even longer.
As an entrepreneur, I'm sure.
Like, in banking, you can take 2 weeks off that, you're not supposed to touch your phone, right? Kind of what you call it,
the block leave.
Yeah, the block leave, right? That's the best time ever. Phone is there. I go to my beach for 2 weeks. I come back fully refreshed. But it's impossible. And you can't really, very hard to separate your personal life and your business. Although it should be separated, but I guess because of where we are right now, you need to be involved quite hands-on. Even you go so-called family trip, you need to just know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I remember we have this mentor that Crader assigned to us as part of the program. So Shani actually said to me that, how do you measure you actually have built a business? If you can go off for 3 months and you come back, the business are still intact and growing, then you have built a business. So that is something that
So are you there yet?
No.
Or not yet? Okay. Right.
Yeah, I mean 3 months. Yeah, I think that would mean that the team actually can manage the process pretty well. Yeah.
That's good advice actually for a measure, right? For a company.
Yeah. Because otherwise, you are still the business. Then it's not a business.
Yeah.
Right? It's still about you. Right.
Yeah.
Of course, to have a sustainable business, it has to be going beyond the founders in that sense. Maybe his or her vision should stay on, but other than that, there should be other people that can take that business forward.
Yeah.
Because
And
otherwise,
report you when you're at the beach lah.
Exactly. Or even don't bother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that was quite an interesting idea when I first heard it. But as I think it through a bit more, I think that is quite important.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you have to decide when you need to hands on. Because I think as a founder, surely I think for every founder also, is in the way you treat like a baby, right? You want to make sure everything is intact and whatnot. But just like I guess growing up kids, at some point you have to let him or her
let it go lah.
Go with that. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I guess just going back to the business a little bit more. In terms of the services that you provide on your platform. So right now, obviously, it's matching it to the loans, right? So are you planning to have different types of services that you provide and products to your customers?
Yeah. The way we think about the business is always back to our mission. what can we do to really enable every hardworking adult to have safe and affordable financing? So I think on the civil servant side, I think we believe that the product is there. It's really about the distribution, the reach. So I think we have the right solution for that. For the non-civil servant side, that's where we see more potentials. So back to my point just now, liquidity is there, right? A lot of people are looking way to lend out to earn the return. But they are not willing to touch on many segments for certain reason, and of course the risk. So the plan here is how can we find that processes? How can we build a non-traditional alternative credit scoring to score this underserved segment, whether it's the gig player, those who have no credit history and whatnot, and then with that work back with the lenders to provide a more holistic solutions. So then they have the money, we have the solutions, then we can work together to solve that problem. Our belief is always that it's better to collaborate and work within the ecosystem to solve that problem rather than to become the lender ourselves to compete them with everyone in that sense. Because the problem is not so much in terms of the liquidity, right? There are a lot of money lender out there. There are a lot of corporate out there that actually have the liquidity. Many of them are also looking at this space. But it's all about how do I go about it. So we hope that we can leverage on, and that's really what we think is what we are doing and what our core focus is. So it's really how do we build the processes to complement that, so that we can offer that solutions to the borrowers. Which will then benefit the lenders, because from the lender side, they are able to broaden their base, and of course with a manageable NPL, that's obviously key. And then saying for the borrower side, then they have able to access to this safe and affordable financing, which they may not have currently. So we are just really the unsexy guy behind the scene, hopefully to facilitate these two part together.
Hey, okay, man. Great. I think that's it's quite noble the way it started off, right? So, and I hope that you do get to help a lot more of the borrowers, especially, right, in these times, right? And finding them the right products that they can actually afford, and rather than go down the path of other types of lenders that are going to see you at midnight with a paint and all that, right? Because I think it's a real problem, right? It's a real problem in Malaysia. It is. And to go beyond the civil servants, because as you say, right? So these guys are kind of stable in a way, right? They at least safe. They've got a checkbook coming in, a check coming in at the end of the month. But the ones beyond that needs more help, in a way, right?
Correct.
Cool, man. So thanks for spending the time.
No, thanks a lot for having me here.
Come back again in end of the year or something, and then we'll see how it's grown. Whether you can take 2 weeks off and then see where the company is.
We'll start with 2 weeks rather than 3 months.
Okay, man.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.